No, I don't
All right, here we go. Ready? We're just going to go rapid fire. My turn. Welcome to the dining room table. We are a husband and wife photo video team with 3 kids and 3 businesses, and we talk about stuff. I don't know. That might be the one.
You said that like it was happening to you. I don't know. Let's just try a couple more. This is the dining room table. I'm Alyssa. This is Ryan. And we are essentially welcoming you into our conversations. We're talking about business life, family life, and all things in between.
I looked at the monitor the entire time.
Are you serious? That was a good
I
one.
can cut it out.
Cut what out?
Episode 1. Are you ready?
Yes.
I feel like there's a lot of pressure for this episode.
Sure.
Because we don't know what we're doing and people are expecting something.
Yeah, but let's not think about that.
I'm in.
You know what? If nobody watches this, if anything, this will just be fun for us.
100%.
It's fun doing it. And then
I'm
in
enjoying it.
20 years, our kids will laugh at
So
how
we're
dorky we
making
are.
this for our children in 20 years.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, perfect. So the first thing that I wanted our children in 20 years to learn about us in 2016, what year is it? Holy cow.
2040. 2039. That will be in 20 years.
Oh, because it's 2019. Okay, terrific. I'm glad we got that out of the way. The topic I thought we would talk about, and not I thought about it. I don't know why I said I thought about it, because we've clearly discussed it together. But work-life balance.
Yes.
The elusive work-life balance.
Yes.
Why is that something we should talk about?
I feel like as business owners, as just people in general, that tends to be something that everyone tries to achieve.
Right.
This perfect sort of balance of just all the things you're juggling in life. And we have strived for that ourselves.
Yeah.
And have learned a few things.
So why
about
elusive?
Because I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible to have a perfectly balanced, to be really successful in business, to be really successful parents,
Right.
to be really successful in our marriage, all those things.
But I feel like that's when somebody else is defining what successful looks
Yeah,
like,
that's
right?
true. Yep.
Because I think it is possible to be successful parents and a successful business owner if you have the correct definition of success.
Yes,
That's
true.
the problem, is when other people, or when you're letting whatever define your success in those areas, that's where you
true.
run into the biggest problems.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Like moms feel this pressure, to just be perfect with all the hats that we wear. We
Right.
need to be so perfect in every aspect of that. And it's just not something to strive for, in my opinion, because you'll be disappointed.
Right, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think maybe for a format, because like I said, we have no idea what we're doing.
No.
So I think maybe a format we can kind of work with is we have a list of questions, and I'll just lob them out,
I like it.
and then we'll both kind of answer them.
Yeah,
So that will be our format.
I like it.
And if it doesn't work,
That's
we'll
fine.
change it. And that's the thing about it, is that we can change it.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. I'm not thrilled with my mic placement. Look at how far away your mic is.
Oh,
Is that in the shot?
no. La, la, la.
Yeah, that's in the shot. That's the tip of it right there.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even
Isn't that
see
weird?
it.
It's because it's lined up perfectly with
What the heck? That was weird.
Okay, so first question, and some of these might not even be questions. We'll just call them talking points.
Sure,
So
I like it.
our weeks, does every week look the same for us?
No.
Not at
Never.
all. No, not even close.
Even when we try, they
They don't
just
look the
do
same.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So what? Well, should we talk about what our weeks look like?
Yeah.
That's probably not that interesting, but let's just give it a quick rundown. We have
Sure.
3 children.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have Piper Ray, who is in 8th grade. She's an 8-year-old, and she's in 2nd grade. We have Maddox Gray. He's a 4-year-old.
In preschool.
We don't call them by their middle names normally. We just
just
thought
when
they're
they're
cool.
in,
So
just
let's
when
say-
they're in trouble.
just when they're in trouble, when we're announcing them on a podcast, a video cast, a visual cast. And then we have Otis Clay.
Yes.
Right? And if you see that they all rhyme, those middle names rhyme, and that's what makes us cool.
Right.
No. So he's 4 and he's in preschool, and Otis is 8 months and he is in diapers.
Yes.
So Piper goes 5 days a week to school, 9 to 3. Maddox goes 5 days a week from noon to
like 2:45. Yep.
So there is a small window during our day where 2 of the children are in school. How does that schedule affect your, because that's the only part of our weeks that are the same.
Yeah.
Right? So how does that schedule sort of affect your, as you fit life in there, right?
Right. I think that time is kind of precious time to be productive or to have meetings.
And that
or
time
really,
being 12 to 3.
right.
That time when the
the older kids are in school and it's just Otis at home. Either he's sleeping, which then I'm able to work or do stuff around the house. But then it's also sometimes I use it as an opportunity to go grocery shopping, or that kind of time is like, okay, how am I going to prioritize how I use that time?
Yeah.
But other than that, we really aren't super. We even that, like, that's a consistent time, but I'm using that time differently.
That time has to be different every week. And a lot of it has to do with things that are coming up. For example, you have a deadline on Friday.
Yes.
This Friday.
Yeah.
So
big one.
that is going to affect how our week is going to look, right? So when would you say you get most of your work done?
I mean, way late at night.
Yeah.
That's probably when I get most of the work done. Probably 8 to midnight, 8 to 1 in the morning sometimes,
And I think what's cool about us we both work from home, is that our weeks are, so I don't have a deadline this Friday.
Right.
So that lets me step in to go, hey, tonight I'm going to make dinner, which means we're going to have scrambled eggs, spaghetti, or frozen waffles, and or frozen fish or something that I can put in the microwave. So I'll take dinner, and so at like 4:30 you are at the dining room table and you start working, and then I'll kind of cook the dinner, get the kids their dinner, hang out with them, and then put them to bed. And so now you've got 4:30 to midnight or whenever we're done working. So that's about the only way you get a stretch, because otherwise there's no solid stretch.
I don't really have a stretch consistently where it's like, oh yeah, I get these 4 hours to just work. That's just not the way our lives work.
Right. So is that something that you think is difficult, or are there pros and cons to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we really wanted raising our kids. Like, this time goes so fast. Everyone says that, but it's true. And these years are going to go by in a blink. So it's a priority for us to savor this time to actually raise our children. This is just our preference. And so everything else kind of, at least my schedule, is working around that.
Right.
Which is why it doesn't really bother me to be working so late at night and kind of fitting it in when I can. But really it's our priority is our family and our kids. And but you brought up a good point, because you do help a lot. And I think, like, what we have learned is that we are such a team to where there's never really like a balance of, okay, this is when I work, this is when you work, we're, whatever. For us, it's very fluid. It's like sometimes like that deadline I have Friday.
Right.
This week is probably going to look like our house is going to be a little messy.
For sure.
Our dinners are going to get real creative.
Yep. Quick.
Right. And this is where we're leaning work-wise, right?
Yeah.
But then that deadline's going to be done, and then we can sort of correct it this direction. But
yeah, and I would say, I feel like for us, sleep is the first thing to go.
Yeah, that's true.
Because there are going to be things that, like, for example, Piper has a track meet tonight, or a cross-country meet. We're not going to skip that because we're busy.
Course,
We were busy. We have events throughout the week. We have our church group on Thursday nights. Like, we're not going to miss certain things.
Totally.
And so because of that, then it's like, well, if we're not missing that, then we'll come home and work from 9 to 1 in the morning,
Right.
and then still wake up at 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then have a cold and not be able to speak because you're not getting any sleep. So I think that's probably kind of the trade-off for us, is like, dinners are going to get quick and creative, and we're going to skip the extra, hour we would take to clean something or to organize something, and we're just going to get back to work.
Totally.
How do you think our kids experience it? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, a lot. Because I think I never want to feel like, oh, I have to get work done, and neglect them in that way. So I do think about that a lot. Maddox is probably the one, since he's home,
the majority of the
day. Obviously Otis, we're just keeping him alive right now.
Right, but, he's cool. He doesn't matter.
But there's a lot of times where I am sitting at this table editing, and he's next to me, Maddox is next to me, and we're playing Go Fish. That's his favorite game right now. Yeah. And so I never want them to feel like we're neglecting them, because work's more important.
For sure.
But I think we also have a really good balance, which is funny to use that word, but of there's a time to play and there's a time to work.
Yeah.
And so we want to help them learn that as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's just kind of been, part of our home culture, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's it's interesting. I don't know if our children realize that some parents actually leave the house to do work.
Yeah,
it's
that's the thing.
They think, oh yeah, well, mom and dad work, but they just work where I can come into their office at any time or to the table and interrupt them. So it makes it difficult. I think as creative, for doing creative work, there's such a rhythm that you have to get into. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes what the first hour of editing is so much, I get so much less accomplished in the first hour than in the next the next hour after that. And so it's like it's like a snowball, probably not like a snowball. I don't know. Does that make sense? It's like a giant ball rolling down a hill that's getting larger as it goes. You know what I'm saying?
That would be a snowball effect.
Is that what it means? Okay, cool. So it's as you get going, it gets totally. You get more work done. But that makes it really hard when you're constantly being interrupted.
Yes.
Because something can pull you out of that flow, whether it's an email or a phone call or a child.
But that's where, with you and me, you need that more so than I do, because you're editing video. Like you're listening to the audio, you're piecing together a story. It's really important for you to get in that space and stay in that space.
Right.
So that's why you're the one spending long stretches editing, where it would be helpful for me to have that, but I think it's still working for me to fit it in when I can.
Right. Yeah, cool. I was just making sure our audio is still recording, so we don't lose another episode.
Is this interesting? Is this even? But I just whatever.
Who cares? It's for our children. It's for our 20-year-old children.
Exactly.
All right, so we do this really well 100% of the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So no, really we fail often.
We do.
So what does that look like? What is it when we say we fail at this work-life balance or whatever you want to call it? What does that mean?
Yeah. I think it means we're in a deficit in all those areas to where everything...
There's a lot of work to be done.
Yep.
The house really needs to be cleaned.
Totally.
Our diapers are piling up. No. Otis hasn't been changed in 3 or 4 days.
No. But there's even emotional chaos in our house.
Yeah.
It feels like it's almost paralyzing. Like we don't know where to even start.
Yeah.
And I think when that happens, we've learned to be quicker to recalibrate and sit down and go, what is out of whack? Where can we start? Where can we work
I think the
on
biggest
this?
thing is it's a difference between being reactionary and proactive.
Totally.
When we know you've got a deadline Friday and this is going to be a busy week, let's spend Saturday cleaning and getting everything organized as best we can, as two unorganized people can do, and get it to the spot where we kind of get a head start going into the week. Whereas what happens a lot, or what happens sometimes is we aren't either able to prepare or we just don't prepare. And then we get into the week, and then that's really where we find ourselves kind of stuck.
Yeah, I think cleaning and getting things organized is a good example, but I also think you and I getting on the same page as okay, we're going into this busy season or we're going into this busy time.
Week,
yeah. And it helped, at least for me, for sure.
Yeah.
It helps me to know we're on the same page. We're going through this together.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we just do it, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Because then if you're kind of trying to go at it, you know, alone, or just sort of, we're just sort of treading water. Like, that's what it feels like. It feels like, I just can't quite, you know, get my head above water.
Yeah, we say that all the time, where it's like, I feel like my head's just barely above water,
right,
or not above water.
But having each other to,
right,
like, help each other and support each other in that way, that's so helpful.
Yeah. So how do we, because it's so important for us to be on the same page, right?
Yes.
So how do we usually get on the same page?
I think communication.
We like to talk.
We do.
So much so, you know what I was thinking? What if we started a podcast? Think about it.
Or a video cast.
Oh, a visual cast, a visual podcast. I think is what it should be called. Okay, so yes, how do we talk? That's usually probably primary number one.
Yeah. And we like to talk, but I think my tendency can be to retreat and just work.
Right.
No matter work in our home,
right.
work in work, you know, and I just kind of close off and just, you know, that does not help me. So you've been really helpful in drawing that out of me.
Sure.
But so communicating helps me a lot with that.
Okay, I don't really want this show to be a lot about like tips. Here are 3 tips for your Wednesday.
Sure,
You know what I'm saying? Plus, because I don't know if we're the people to give tips.
Right.
You know, if I'm being completely honest. But I do want to talk a little bit about some of the practical tools, is maybe a loose word, but like some of the things we do that we have found that have helped, and some of the things that we want to do that we just have never done, or some of the things that we've done and that have failed miserably.
Yes.
So from a business standpoint, our whole life is kind of wrapped up in Evernote for weddings. Yeah. Now, there are 100 options. In fact, we just spent the last couple of weeks, we were testing out Honeybook and 17 Hats and all these other ones. And they're all great, I'm sure. But what we ended up finding was like, our system works really well. So as far as managing our clients and managing our contracts and all that kind of stuff, Evernote is sort of our go-to.
Yes. And when it's in Evernote, it feels like, okay, this is done. That's job's done. Happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. Obviously, we use QuickBooks and we use Google Calendar to make sure our calendars are on the same page. Yeah. But what are some of the more like not necessarily like apps or something that we use to help kind of keep that work-life balance?
Yeah. I would say one of the things that you started that has helped me too is making sure we're setting deadlines for ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that's a hard part about owning our own businesses is we don't have a boss telling us, okay, you need to have that done by this time and blah, blah, blah. Right. We're our own boss. And so for people who are creative, that tends to be, and those little small logistics, those are difficult for us. And so we've learned over the last few years, especially, we set deadlines and we put them in the calendar, and that's a set deadline for us.
Like your deadline Friday.
Exactly. That was a deadline I set. Right. But it gives us just what we need, that sense of urgency to accomplish that in that time. And so that's been really helpful.
Yeah, that's
super helpful. It seems obvious.
Yeah, right. That's the other thing of why I didn't want to give a lot of tips in this show is because I feel like a lot of people are going to go,
well, of course.
Duh.
Yeah.
Our first tip is to do work, to do your work. That's a good thing to do.
That's helpful.
So I think one of the things that has helped me is making a to-do list.
Yes.
And I've used
a visual one.
A visual one. I'm a visual person. Mm-hmm. I have a visual podcast. So I think like having it laid out, I've done it a few different ways, but I use sticky notes actually on the wall, and here's all of the things to do, and then if I'm working on them, I move the sticky note into working on, and then when it's done, I move it over, and there's like a satisfaction in moving the sticky note to the done category. And that's pretty good. I don't always stay up on it. I also use the Stickies app on my computer and do a similar thing, but it's actually digital. But yeah, those have worked out really well. Probably the best has been that. Here's all the things I'm working on, and I'm moving it over to be a visual to-do list.
Because even though our list of to-do is a mile long, when you write it all out, you see it visually, and you're able to move that one thing over, it starts to feel like, oh, okay, like
chipping away at it.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
We used that system this weekend, not for business, but we used it for home. So we had to clean, and what we ended up doing was writing all of the tasks we had on the fridge of place to clean, and we involved the kids. They wrote them.
And that was why. It was because
it was the only way to
hard.
convince them that, hey, look, cleaning is fun. Which is funny because we had to kind of convince ourselves too.
Sure.
Because we don't really like cleaning either.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Right.
They moved vacuuming over to doing, and then got to move it over to done.
And they loved it.
And they loved it. And it worked.
Yeah. Maddox, especially as a 4-year-old, I didn't think he would take to that.
So there's a tip.
Right.
A good tip.
That everyone probably already does.
Yeah, probably. Or whatever. Their children just clean without.
I don't know if this is a tip, but more of like, we're not super OCD to where the house is messy and we both feel like, we have to clean it immediately.
Yeah.
So everybody has different things that they do, but for us, I think it really helps us to have a full day of like, okay, this is a cleaning day.
Yes.
Reset for the week.
Yes.
Laundry away, everything's totally clean.
Yeah.
That just works for us because then we can devote more time through the week working and.
Yeah. I personally like to compartmentalize. Mm-hmm. And so I would rather go, this day, the whole day is dedicated to X business. Like this is going to be a wedding day, this is going to be a commercial day, or separating it like that for my brain really helps being able to say, these are the days that I'm only working on this. Mm-hmm. And so I don't always stick to that because inevitably something pops up, but for me to look at my calendar and say, these 2 days are going to be devoted just days weddings, and these days are going to be devoted to whatever else. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really helpful for you.
What do you think in the business side of things is the thing that derails your productivity the most?
I mean, I feel like it'd be more interesting hearing from you for that. But for me, it's the kids.
It's the kids.
But that feels really funny saying that they're derailing my work.
Right.
Because they are more of my priority. So,
but from a business point, I guess, do you have one or
the truth is, like, I could be devoting a lot more time to my business. And I have things I want to do. Right. I have things that get me excited and I'm creative about and I just really would love to see in my business. Uh-huh. But I know that there's a cost to those things. So I consciously am just not pursuing them because I'm devoting this time to raising our kids.
Right. And I think that's
not really helpful, but
nope, that didn't answer my question at all. No, that's really helpful. That's exactly. And I mean, I think that's a good thing. That wasn't really where I was going with the question, but yours, where you took it, is a lot more interesting. So thank you. But like everything has a cost. So bringing on, like, there's only so much time and something is going to have to give.
Totally.
So when you bring on more work or you bring on a different idea, or for example, we need 2 brand new websites because our website's expiring and we got a whole little thing. Like, bringing something is going to push something else. And so it's being I feel like this is maybe summarizing the whole thing we've been talking about, but it's being able to know that something's going to have to give. Mm-hmm. And then just being smart in selecting what those things are going to be.
Absolutely. And thinking of it more as, instead of like super compartmentalized, although that helps your brain, but thinking of the balance thing as more of a flow, where it's like we're leaning this direction at this time, we're leaning this way at this time. Yeah. But that's a really great great point.
Counting. So when you are kind of counting that cost of hey, it means we have to say no to things. Yeah. Sometimes more often than not, right? Which
when we were starting out was really hard to do. Yeah. And I think for good reason, because we wanted all the experience we could get.
Right.
I think we've learned now to be able to say no. That's going to push me too much in too many directions. Yeah. So that's hard, though, saying no.
Yeah. And it spans across, we have to say no sometimes to work, obviously, work that isn't going to fit where we're going. And then also no to social events, right? Or friends that we want, or maybe it's not no, maybe it's later, and have to schedule things out a little bit further, family events, stuff like that.
Kind of holding time as a little more precious
I think that's probably the
filling
biggest,
it up.
Yeah, that's probably been the biggest thing that we've kind of learned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you want to summarize all of this? and tell people how to have the perfect work-life balance?
It's not possible.
Oh, that's the joke. Or the, is it a joke?
That's the elusive part. No, I think we've learned there is no perfect balance. There's no such thing.
Yep.
But there is a way to measure your priorities and lean towards those at different times.
Yeah.
And just kind of we've learned this perspective of just sort of embracing the chaos.
Yeah, I think that's what we say. Just sink into the chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it, remembering that everything comes at a cost. And so you talking about things you want to do, I think about things that we want to do. And in the season of life, we're always measuring the decisions we make of how this is going to affect the little chaos that we have at this house.
Totally.
And there are
where
certain
we're going.
and there are certain things we could do, but doing those certain things could have a real big impact on our time and our kids, and then and we're weighing that. We're weighing that against it. And obviously that's not a tip we can give anybody, because that's a personal, that's a family thing, which all of this really is just kind of our personal thing. Our hot take on how to manage your work-life balance.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is episode 1.
This is, yes.
This is episode 1. And
we don't really know where we're going. So if you've watched this far and you have questions for us, please send them our way, because that will give us ideas of things to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I think hopefully it was interesting.
If it wasn't, it's fine.
And you know what? If it wasn't for you. It was for our children in 20 years. So just, keep it to yourself. You know what I mean? Keep it to yourself. All right.
We did it.
Let's wrap it up.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks for watching.